Hi everyone, I wonder if anybody's here already, and if so, perhaps you could just tell me that you can hear me and that you can see my shared screen. Hi Freon, can you see my shared screen and can you hear my voice? Can you hear me okay? Question mark. Oh, brilliant. So you can hear me, and can you see my shared screen? If so, then we're all up and running. Brilliant. Okay, everybody. Well, you can see the message on the screen. We're going to start at 10:35 to give you all a chance to get organised. It would be good to download the questions, and I have put a link in the chat. I've pinned the chat, so it's at the top there. So it'd be good if you downloaded the questions before we started, and make sure you've got what you need, rather, including a calculator. And we will start in 5 minutes' time. Okay, if you're ready, then you're doing well. Do me a favor, please, and hit like a few times, or make a comment, tell me you're here, and any hitting like that you do, or any comment making will help other people realize that the live has started, because they'll get some sort of notification. So hit like a few times for me, please, and leave me a comment if you want to tell me you're here. And we're going to start in 5 minutes' time. Right. Okay. Hi, Moz MTB. Hi, Ollie. Good to see you. Hi, Ed. Somehow, so if somebody wants to get past, they can. Right. Okay, so as regards future YouTube lives, I'm not sure what future YouTube lives I'll be doing, but if you get yourself on my mailing list, then I will send you a message whenever I'm doing a YouTube live, or alternatively, of course, you can just keep an eye on the YouTube channel, in which case you'll want to subscribe to that. If you're somebody who's sitting your papers in the summer and you do want to have my help, then there's some details of Past Paper Club on the screen, and you can send me a message and I'll tell you about that. Right, we're going to start in 2 minutes' time. So I'm hoping you've got the questions. I'm hoping you've got a calculator. If you're here, do me a favor, hit like a couple of times. See if we can let others know that we are starting in a couple of minutes. Hi, Dylan. Today's live will be, well, how many questions we got? We've got 10 questions. I reckon it'll be an hour or perhaps a bit less. Okay. Hi, Zach. Okay. I thought we'd have a whole load of people from Ledbury Rugby Club here today, but I'm not sure we have. Right. Oh, go on then, Dylan. Get them on. They've got a minute to join us. The trouble is, Moz MTB, is that I don't actually know who you are. So, well, I'm pleased you're committed to your maths. Oh, hi, Freddie. Good to see you. Right, we're going to start in a minute or two. Oh, Jake, hi. I'm from year 2024 IGCSE match. Some questions are similar, some that's what I joined. That's not a problem. Just make sure. So I'm not clear, dull droplets. Are you sitting your IGCSE next year then, or have you already sat it? Hi, Noah. Okay. Right, we're going to start in a minute then. We'll give it 1 more minute and then we'll crack on. Okay. Right. Is the grade 9 lesson from yesterday recorded? Yes, it is. You'll find it on the YouTube channel under the lives tab, or send me a message, Zach, and I'll send you a link. Okay, the grade 9 lesson wasn't yesterday. Yesterday was grade 7, and the day before that was grade 9. But I have to say those questions were pretty tough. So you would find the grade 7 film useful as the grade 9 one. Okay, well, if you've already done the exam, then it's good to have you here, dull droplets. That's beyond the call of duty. Okay, right, we're going to get started, I think. So, now, okay, so here we go. Now, before we start, these are questions which could appear on the foundation paper at the harder end, or could appear at the easier end of the higher paper. Okay, so if you're doing foundation and you find some of these pretty tricky, that's not the end of the world, because these will be the harder questions on the foundation paper. Okay, if you're doing higher and you find these pretty tricky, then in order to get your grade 4 or 5 on higher, then you've got some work to do. But of course, we've got until June, okay, or May. So there's no need to anyone to panic on the back of this. Right, let's have a look at the first question here. Right, I will pause for a minute and let you read the question. And I'm kind of hoping that you're ahead of me as you're working on it. But after a minute or two, I'll make a start on the question myself so that you can then follow along with me if you like. But you probably need to be reading the question now and making a first attempt at it. Is there a 4 to 6 pass paper? Well, you probably Dylan, you probably want to just focus on the topics that you've got on your revision list that you find most accessible. And if you were to, you probably know which ones those are. Okay, because there isn't a past paper for 4 to 6. These are just questions which I've chosen which are of that level. Okay, but you probably want to do a past paper and try and get 40-50% on it, and that's a kind of 6-7 or a 6. So work on the first half of the paper and concentrate on the topics that come up in the first half of the paper. Okay. Right, Yoko flew a plane from Tokyo to Sydney. The plane flew a distance of 7,800 kilometers. I'm already thinking this is going to be a distance speed time, so I'm going to put my distance speed time triangle up here. Okay. Now, the distance is 7,800, and the time is 9 hours 45 minutes. Now, the trick with this question is, how are you going to write that? Are you going to write it as 9.45 hours? In which case you would be wrong, I'm afraid, because 9 hours 45 minutes is 9 hours, and that 45 minutes is 3/4 of an hour, isn't it? So we've actually got 9 3/4 hours. So to write this into hours, you mean to say 9.75. That's how many hours 9 hours 45 minutes is. It's 9 3/4 of an hour, so 9.75 hours. And once you've got that bit right, then you probably are content with working out that the speed, the average speed, is the distance, 7,800, divided by 9.75, and therefore you get your answer. Now, if you had done 9.45, then you will not get full marks, clearly. But if you've done 9.45, but you have written the sum that you were doing, which would have been this one, which would have been wrong, but if you'd written that down, you're likely to get some part marks, because the examiner can see that you know you had to do distance divided by time, but they realize you just got the time wrong, so you'll get some part marks. However, if you haven't written down that bit of working, you are not going to get any marks at all, because you'll simply have written down a wrong answer. So always show every step. The answer is 800, by the way. Always show every step, and then if you have made a mistake, you've got a very good chance of picking up part marks. And because there's so little marks, so few marks between each grade boundary, all the part marks matter. Okay. Now you can, as an alternative, thanks Freddie, you can convert this time to minutes, 9 hours 45 minutes. Now let's convert that to minutes. I'll do that over here. So 9 times 60 is 540 plus the 45. So actually this is 585 minutes. So then you could work out the speed, 7,800 divided by 585. Now that is going to be the number of meters that the plane is traveling every minute. Okay, that's 13.3 recurring, or 13 1/3, and then you'd have to multiply that by 60 to get how many kilometers the plane would travel in an hour. So then you get 800 that way. But look out, you have to give your answer in these units. So you would have to convert to kilometers per hour. Okay, right. Okay, so I think I've covered the questions there. I'm going to pause for a minute in case anybody, of course you're allowed to work through the questions, Zach, but you'll have to kind of crack on, okay? Because in a few minutes, I'm going to go through question 2. Okay, so if I'm quiet for a minute or two, give you a chance to have a go at question 2, and with any luck, get on to question 3. All right, and that'll give you a chance to get ahead. Good. All right. So you guys, if you're happy with, if you want to ask a question about question 1, ask a question about question 1. If you're happy with question 1, then crack on with question 2 and 3 If I pause for 3 or 4 minutes, it'll give you a chance to be ahead of me. Okay. Of course, if you're somebody who downloaded the questions and who has already had a go at them, then you've got an easy couple of minutes in front of you. Right. So you've got question 2, and I'll put question, I can't really put question 3 on the screen at the same time, I don't think, so I'm hoping you've got a printout. There's question 2 on the screen for you. Right, now, let's have a look at question 2. Now, question 2 is a more difficult ratio question. So before we do anything with question 2, let's look at a question that's similar to question 2, just to make sure that you're all okay with what is a more straightforward ratio question. Let's look at this question here. This is a made-up question, okay? I've still got person P, person A, and person J, and I'm still going to share the money in the ratio 3 to 6 to 4. But this time, I'll tell you how much one of the people get. I'll tell you how much person P gets, right? They get 33. So now, and the question could be, for instance, how much does person J get? That could be the question, right? Now, if you were doing this question, you'd probably say to yourself, right, what's the 3 being multiplied to get 33? It's been multiplied by 11. Okay, and so you'd multiply the 4 by 11 as well and get the answer 44. Now that's a more typical ratio question. Now, the thing that makes this question a bit more difficult is that they don't tell you how much person P, person A, or person J got. Instead, they tell you the difference between A and J. So in my ratios here, I'm going to write another column, and that's going to be the difference between A and J. Difference between A and J. And the difference in terms of my ratios here is the difference between 6 and 4. So the difference is 2 in terms of the ratio. And now I can write my 28 from the question underneath this 2, because the difference is 28. So I get the difference in terms of the ratio, and then underneath that I write the difference in terms of the real world, and then I can work out my multiplier from the 2 to the 28. So this time we're multiplying by 14. And now I can work out the answer to the question, work out the amount of money that Penny gets. Well, that's going to be 3 times 14. So the amount of money that Penny gets is 3 times 14, which I think is $42. But the trick there was to realize that this 28 relates to the difference between A and J. So give yourself a 4th column in your ratio setup there. All right. Okay. So just looking to see if anyone's got any questions about number 2. And I'm hoping that you're moving on to number 3. maybe hit like or something. Tell me that you're, if you're moving on and you're happy, hit like. If you want to ask me a question about number 2, then please do. I'm going to move the screen on to number 3 for anybody who needs to be able to see number 3. But I'm very happy to answer a question about number 2. Right, there is quite a lot to number 3. Okay, we've got group data, we've got frequency. All right, and we're asked to do 3 things for number 3. Okay. Right. Okay. Confused on 2, Zach. Well, I've got a ratio film. So anybody who wants that ratio film, send me an email, because I've got a film that takes you through a whole load of ratio questions. Okay, so send me a message, anybody who wants the ratio film, and there are lots of questions there for you to practice. And ratio is probably just a question of practice. But Zach, I've written you down, so I'll send you a link to the ratio film. Okay. So, Dylan, there are lots of past papers on the YouTube channel, or I would imagine that school have given you a couple of past papers for the holidays, and they've also given you video solutions, haven't they? Okay, Gracie, I'll send you the film as well. So I reckon, Dylan, that your best bet is to use any past papers that school have given you and just work on the first half of those. Okay? And I happen to know that the papers the school have given you, there's links to the video solutions as well. Okay, we're working on number 3, I think. I don't know what W means. Maybe I'm showing my ignorance. Right. Okay. I'm thinking I'm going to make a start on number 3, unless anybody else asks me to wait another couple of minutes in the comments. So does anybody want me to wait another couple of minutes? Otherwise, I'm going to do number 3. Okay, I'm going to make a start on number 3. Right, now, you've got lots of time in your exam, so you've got lots of time to read the question properly, right? Now, it says a factory has 60 workers. Don't skip over that bit and start looking at this table straight away. A factory has 60 workers, right? Underline it, 60 workers. The table shows the information about the distances in kilometers the workers travel to the factory each day. Now let's take a minute and stare at this table till we understand what on earth it means. Okay? For instance, have a look at this. What does that mean? Well, it means that 12 of the 60 workers travel between 0 and 5 kilometers. 6 of the workers travel between 5 and 10. 4 travel between 10 and 15. 6 travel between 15 and 20. 14 travel between 20 and 25 kilometers. And 18 travel between 25 and 30 kilometers. Okay, so you've got time to really make sure you understand what that table means. Now write down the modal class. Now the mode is the one you see the most. So the modal class is the most common distance, the most common class. And look at this. There are 18 people in this class. So the most common class is 25 to 30. Okay, that is the modal class because it has more people in it, more people in that group than any other. Now, an estimate for the mean distance traveled to the factory each day. Right, we're going to use mid-mad here. Okay, we're going to find the midpoints of each of the classes. And then we're going to multiply and add and divide. So let's first of all find the midpoints. Now be careful when you're doing this, because maybe one of the groups, all of these are 5 wide, but maybe they'll throw in one that's 10 wide just to try and catch you out. In this case, they haven't done. Okay, I'm just writing down all the midpoints here. And 27.5. So these 12 people here, wait for it, these 12 people, I'm going to assume that each of them travel a distance of 2.5 kilometers. I know some of them have done nearer 5 and some of them have done nearer 0 kilometers, but I'm going to assume that they've each of them done 2.5. Kind of average it out. So 12 people have done 2.5. So I'm going to do 12 times 2.5 to work out the total number of kilometers traveled by those 12 people. So that's 30 kilometers. And in the same way, I do 6 times 7.5. Those 6 people together have traveled 45 kilometers. 4 times 12.5. 6 times 17.5. 14 times 22.5. And 18 times 27.5. So now I can work out, look at this, I've found the midpoint, I've multiplied, now I'm going to add to work out the total number of kilometers traveled. So if I add that up, I get 1040. So that's the total number of kilometers traveled by all the workers. So if I need to work out the mean, I'm going to do the total divided by the number of workers. Well, how many workers are there? It did tell you in the question, and we underlined it. There are 60 workers. And if it hadn't told us in the question, how could we have worked out how many workers there were? We could have added up all these frequencies. Okay, so our mean distance traveled is going to be the total number of kilometers traveled divided by the number of workers, divided by 60. And when I did that this morning, I got 17.3 recurring, or 17.3, or 17 and a third kilometers is the mean distance traveled. I feel like I'm just going to check that now on my calculator. Yeah, okay. So that's the mean distance traveled. Right, before I go on to part C, I'm just going to have a look at the comments in case there's a question. In the meantime, you can be doing part C, or you can move on to number 4 if you want to. Right. And now, num, how do I work out B? Is that the one I've just been through? So I'm hoping you're happy with B. Now, if you're not, then ask me a question about it. I think you can probably rewind the live as it happens as well if you want to, or you can wait and straight afterwards it'll be on the YouTube channel for you anyway. So I'm hoping that you've had a go at C and that you are on to question 4. If you want me to slow down, send me a message, put something in the chat. I'm going to go through question C now. Right, write down the probability that the worker travels more than 20 kilometers to the factory each day. Sorry, one of these workers is chosen at random. Write down the probability that this worker travels more than 20 kilometers to the factory each day. Well, how many of the workers do travel more than 20 kilometers to the factory each day? Let's look at this table. Which of these workers travels more than 20 kilometers to the factory? Oh, well, these 14, they travel more than 20 kilometers, don't they? Because they travel kilometers. So actually, that lot, that's 32. So 30 more than 20 kilometers. So is the answer just going to be 32? It's not, because it doesn't ask me how many of the workers travel more than 20 kilometers. It asks me, one of the workers is chosen at random, what's the probability a person travels more than 20 kilometers? So I'm going to have to do 32 over, how many workers were there? 60. So that's the probability of choosing a worker who travels more than 20 kilometers to the factory each day. And you can cancel that down. You can stick it in your calculator, of course, and press equals, or you can divide top and bottom by 4, and you get the answer 8/15. Okay. Now, whether or not you have to cancel it down to get your 2 marks depends on the mark scheme, but it's always worth cancelling down if you can. And anyway, you can use your calculator to cancel down. Okay, that's question 3 finished. Question 4 is quite tricky, but I'm hoping that you are already working on question 4. And if you're not, then no problem, but perhaps you can make a start on it now. Now, in number 4, nobody's telling me to slow down, so I'm going to make a start. In number 4, Nigel bought 12 boxes of melons. Okay. He paid $15 for each box. Oh, shall we work out how much he spent in total? Total spent. 12 boxes, $15 each, 12 times 15 on my calculator. He spent $180. Okay. All right. There were 12 melons in each box. How many boxes did he buy? He bought 12 boxes, and there were 12 melons in each box. Should we work out how many melons he bought in total? Total number of melons. Total number of melons. Well, he bought 12 boxes, and there are 12 melons in each box. So he bought 144 melons in total. Okay. All right, now I've worked that out. I haven't got a clue what the question is yet, but I thought, well, I might as well work stuff out as I go. And all of this might get me part marks, of course. Nigel sold 3/4 of the melons for $1.60 each. He sold all the other melons at a reduced price. He made an overall profit of 15%. Work out how much Nigel sold each reduced price melon for. Well, if I'm stuck, I'm just going to go back to the beginning and read it again, okay? It says Nigel sold 3/4 of the melons for $1.60 each. I suppose I could work out how much money he got from that, couldn't I? 3/4 of the melons. Now, how many melons is that? 3/4 of means times, 3/4 of 144. That's how many melons he sold for $1.60 each. So 3/4 of 144, do that on my calculator. He sold 108 melons. And how much did he sell them for? $1.60. So 108 times $1.60. I wonder how much he got for those melons. 108 times $1.60. That gives him, just as well we've got a calculator, isn't it? That gives him $172.80. All right. So we know how much he made from selling these 108 melons. Has he got any melons left to sell? He has, hasn't he? Because he had a total of 144 melons, right? So how many melons are left? Melons left. 144 minus 108. Do you notice how I'm writing down every sum I do? Because I'm definitely going to get as many part marks as I can for this question. So he has 36 melons left. Right. Number 4, let's go back to the beginning, shall we? Nigel bought 12 boxes of melons, $15 each, 12 melons in each box. He sold 3/4 of the melons for $1.60 each. Okay, well, we've done all that, and we know that he made $172.80 from that. He sold all the other melons at a reduced price. Well, there are 36 melons left, aren't there, to sell at a lower price. He made an overall profit of 15%. Well, what does that mean? You know how he spent $180 when he bought them? Well, he made a profit of 15%. So let's work out how much profit he made. What is 15% of 180? Because that's the amount of profit he made. So I'm going to do 0.15 times 180. And he made $27 profit. Well, if he made $27 profit, how much did he sell how much did he get in total when he sold all the melons? When he sold all the melons, he must have got a total of 180 plus another 27. 180 plus 27. He must have sold everything in total for $207. Okay. We're trying to work out how much he sold each of those 36 melons for, aren't we? And we know he had a total of 207. But wait a minute. He sells these melons here for 172, doesn't he? So 207 minus 172.80, that's going to tell me how much money he makes from the remaining 36 melons. Gosh, this is a complicated question. I don't know if I'm making it any easier. So that's $34.20. That's how much he gets from selling the 36 melons. Work out how much Nigel sold each reduced price melon for. Well, the price for each of those 36 melons must have been 34.20 divided by 36. So that means the price for each reduced price melon is $0.95 or 95 cents. But look, it asks for the answer in dollars. I mean, that's a hard 5 marks there. But lots and lots of you can get it right. And those of you who find it tricky now, well, first of all, you'll find it easier in May. But secondly, look how you can get part marks. Okay, so I'm going to leave that on the screen for you so you can have a look. But this is a big lesson in part marks. Okay, Freon, see you next time. Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to ask? Maybe you've already moved on to number 4. I don't think I got what it meant by each reduced melon price, though. Okay, so work out how much Nigel sold each reduced price melon for. Well, he's got some melons he sells at $1.60. And then it says he sold all the other melons at a reduced price. And then it says, how much did he sell each of those reduced price melons for? So it's complicated, isn't it? You've got to read it several times to kind of get your head around what it means. But I hope you're happy with it now. The reduced price melons are those 36 melons. Okay. Right, I feel like I have to move on because if we keep it moving, we'll have time to do everything we need to do today. Now, number 5. I can't really use a pair of compasses on the screen. Okay, so I think the best thing for me to do is just to remind you how to do number 5. And the reason that I've put it in here is it's really a reminder for you to have a pair of compasses, a protractor, and everything else you need for your mocks. Now, I'm just going to do number 5 now, but obviously I can't do it accurately. But what you do is you open your compass, right? Here's the compass, here's my pencil, right? You open your compass, you put the sharp end in here. And then you keep your compass open the same length for this whole question. Put an arc, put an arc. Keep the compass the same length. Sharp end here, put an arc. Keep the compass the same length. Sharp end here, put an arc. And then you can bisect the angle, split the angle in half by drawing that line there. Okay, and then if you check it with a protractor, you will find that that angle there should be the same as this angle here. Okay, that is me going through number 5. And if you want to have a go at that yourself, you can replay the film and kind of do it with me. Okay, and with that's been a good reminder. But we're not going to spend any time on that because I've demoed it. We're going to go straight on to number 6. So you should be working on number 6, please, or you should be ahead of me on number 7. Okay, that's good, dull droplets. I'm glad you get it now. So we're on number 6. Let's face it, there's going to be a factorizing question, isn't there, in your exam? And there's going to be solve a quadratic equation in your exam. Now, when you factorize fully, the reason it says factorize fully is because if, for instance, you do this, if you say, 3 lots of 6e cubed f plus 15e squared f to the 4, then that's not good enough. Okay, the reason it's not good enough, when I say it's not good enough, I mean you won't get all the marks. The reason you won't get all the marks is that you can find something higher than the 3 that's a common factor of those two things. Something higher than a 3 you can take out. You've got 18 here and 45. Now, those of you doing foundation, this is a hard example of factorizing, but all the principles are the same, okay? Right, so in fact, 18 to 45, you can take out a 9 there. So we don't want to take out a 3, we need to take out a 9. So I suppose you might think, oh, okay, well, the answer's this then. But I'm afraid it's still not completely right, because do you see how you can take out an expression with e in it as well? This one's got e cubed, and this one's got e squared. So you can actually take out 9e squared. Now, what about the f's? F to the power of 1, f to the power of 4. I can actually take out an f as well. So now let's see what we can do. Here's the original question. I'll write it in red. 18e cubed f plus 45e squared f to the 4. Right, keep your head. We've worked out we're going to take out 9e squared f. So what are we going to need in the bracket? Well, first of all, let's focus on this. You're going to need to have a 2, aren't you? Because 9 times 2 will give you the 18. Do you need an e? You do need an e, because you want to end up with e cubed when you multiply out the bracket. Do you need an f? No, you don't, because there's already an f outside the bracket there. Plus, now let's focus on this one. 9 times something is 45. Well, that's 9 fives. Right, do you need any e's? You've got e squared here, and look, we've already got e squared. Okay, do you need any f's? Because we've got f to the 4 here, and we've just got f there, so we're going to need to have f to the 3. Okay, and that is the final answer. Now, if when you're doing a question like this, if you want to check you've actually factorized it fully, have a look at what's inside the bracket and check there's nothing else that goes into both of those expressions. And in this case, 2 and 5, the only common factor is 1, and e and f, well, we've done it, haven't we? Okay, so that is that factorizing. Okay, now here's an easier example of a factorizing, just so that you can have a look at this one, so you feel a bit better about factorizing. Try this one. 12. I'll tell you what, let me change that. Try this one. There you are. Try and factorize that one if you want a quick practice. See what you can pull out of the brackets. All right, I'm hoping that you've pulled out a 3 and an x. And then you've got to think, right, what do I have here? Well, you're going to have x cubed. And what do I have here? Just a 4. So that would be an easier example of a factorizing. Okay. Right. Okay. Now we're going to have a look at question B. Now, whether you are doing higher or foundation, very often a question like question B would be preceded, it would have another question before it. And the question before it, generally they ask you first, they say factorize this. And then in the next question, they say solve this equation. And they put what you've just factorized equals 0, okay? Because you use your answer for the first part of the question for the second. Now, in this particular paper, they haven't done that, but who cares? Let's do this question here, and then let's do that question there, because the first bit helps us with the second. So I'll be quiet for a minute while you try and factorize that expression. It's going to go into 2 brackets, of course. And then you can use your answer for that to solve the equation. Okay. If you've done this, then move on to the next question. I'm just having a look at the comments. It doesn't seem that anyone has anything they want to ask. Okay. Factorizing that, I wonder if you've got it. It's definitely an x and an x, right? Now they multiply to negative. So one of them is going to be positive and one's going to be negative. They multiply to minus 12, don't they? So 12, so it could be 1 and 12, or 12 and 1. Could be 2 and 6, or 6 and 2. Could be 3 and 4, or 4 and 3. Well, one of them is plus and one of them is minus, and we end up with minus 4x. So it's going to be one of these, right? Because they have a difference of 4. And in this case, because you want to get minus 4x, you're going to have minus the 6 and plus the 2. And now, let's use that to solve the equation. This is a quadratic equation. It's already set equal to 0. Factorize the left-hand side. Well, we've already done that. And then you can write down your 2 answers. X is minus 2 or X is 6. Remember, you have a look at this and that helps you work out your 2 answers. Now, let's just take a minute to learn again. Let me just harp on about the importance of showing your working. The fact is that if you had made a mistake here, you would still get marks for this bit because you're still showing that you know how to solve a quadratic equation, even if you got the wrong answer. So always show each step of your working, okay? Because there are 3 marks of that. And I bet if you factorized it incorrectly and then you used your wrong factorization in the correct way here, I bet you get 2 out of 3. So it's well worth showing all your working. Okay, here we go, question 7. We're almost there now. I think we're going to go up to question 10, look. Yeah, so we're almost there. Question 7. Right, I'll be quiet for a minute. Have a go at question 7. And if you've done question 7, move on to question 8. If you've got a question, ask me in the chat. Right. What are you using here for this right angle triangle? I'm hoping you're thinking Pythagoras or trigonometry. And then I'm hoping that you're thinking, right, I'm going to use trigonometry. I'm going to use SOHCAHTOA. I'm going to use SOHCAHTOA. Going to write that down. because you never know what they give you part marks for. Calculate the length of PR. Well, let's call PR X. Right. Okay, now we've got to choose whether to use sine, cos, or tan. Well, I know that it's cos because these two sides are cozy around the angle. But I equally had somebody teach me this method, which is a different way of finding out whether to use sine, cos, or tan. What they did is they know this is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle. They know this is the adjacent, and they know this is the opposite. And then they say to themselves, which side is not involved? The answer, the opposite, is not involved. So choose the sine, cos, or tan which doesn't involve the opposite. So that's how they work out that they're going to use cos. Okay, and secretly, I think that's quite a good idea, quite a good way of doing it. Right, so we're going to use cos. We've got to calculate the length of PR. Now, the way that I do that is I think about this as being a kind of formula triangle here. The and we've got to find PR, which is the adjacent. So I'm going to cover up the adjacent, and that tells me that PR, the adjacent, X, equals cos the angle, cos 35, times the hypotenuse, 17.6. So on my calculator, I'm going to do cos 35 equals times 17.6. Or I'm going to do cos 35, put 35 in a bracket. But I always do cos 35 equals and then times by 17.6. And I get the answer 14.417 and so on. And it says three significant figures. So it's going to be 14.4. And that is how I would do question 7. Just looking at the chat to see if there are any questions. Okay. And if you're happy, then move on to question 8. Nobody's telling me to slow down, so I think I'm doing okay. Then we've only got 8, 9, and 10. How do you know which one to use? What, sine, cos, or tan? Well, I'll take you through. To be honest, I think that the method that somebody taught me is probably the easiest one. So what you do, Dylan and anybody else, is you have a look at your triangle. Let's do a different one. Let's do this one. Okay. And let's say that in this one, let's say that you knew that and you had to find that. Okay. Well, label your sides. So I'm hoping you know that this one's the hypotenuse. I haven't given you an angle, sorry. Here, let me give you an angle, 40. So I'm hoping you know that that one's the hypotenuse, right? So should be okay with that. Now I'm hoping you know that the side opposite the angle, you know, the X here, I'm hoping you know that that's the opposite because it's opposite the angle, opposite the 40. And therefore this one's the adjacent. Okay. Now, what you do is you say to yourself, which of those sides is not involved? Well, in this case, the adjacent's involved and the opposite's involved. The opposite's involved because I'm trying to find the opposite, and the adjacent's involved because I'm told the adjacent. So which side is not involved? The hypotenuse. So we are going to look at SOHCAHTOA, and we're going to find the one which doesn't involve the hypotenuse. Which of these does not have an H in it? Answer, TOA. So in that case, I would use the tan. Okay? All right. And if you want me to, I've got a booklet, I think, where you have to choose whether you use sine, cos, or tan. So if you send me a message, I'll send you a link to that booklet and you can practice deciding whether it's sine, cos, or tan. It's not a race, of course. I know it's on a booklet, but it's not a race. Okay? Cos is cozy around the angle. Well, that's the way that I tend to do it. But lots of people find the which side is not involved way easier. Okay. Where do I send you a message? Good question. Well, you could just send me a message on Teams if you wanted to, Dylan. Or I'll tell you what, I'll just write it down here. I'll send you a message on Teams with the link to the block kit, and then you can just practice, okay? All right. Okay. Right. Moving ahead to number 8, I think. Right. Okay, Freddie. What's that? Do I use sine, cos, or tan, isn't it? Look at okay. Right, number 8. Almost there, folks. Now remember, if you're thinking, God, these questions are tough, then if you're doing foundation, well, they're supposed to be quite tough because they're going to be the hardest questions on the foundation paper, okay? All right, and they will be easier questions on the paper that you're doing for your mocks. Right, number 8. Does anybody want me to wait a second? Tell me in the comments if you want me to, in the chat, if you want me to wait a minute. Otherwise, I'm going to crack on with number 8. Okay, well, there are only 7 of us left. Right, number 8 it is. Here we go. Right, in a sale, normal prices are reduced by 15%. The normal price of a mixer is reduced by $22.50. I don't know why they're all in dollars this time. Now, that means that 15% of the normal price is $22.50, doesn't it? Because it says that in a sale, normal prices are reduced by 15%, and it tells you that the reduction on the mixer is $22.50. So $22.50 must be equal to 15% of the price of the normal price of the mixer. Is that right? So work out the normal price of the mixer. Well, once you know that 15% of the price is $22.50, you can work out 1% of the price and then 100% of the price. And of course, 100% of the normal price is the normal price. So this is a different sort of percentages question than the ones that normally come up. Normally, you have to increase by a percentage or decrease by a percentage. But in this case, it's slightly different. Again, if you want a film of a whole load of percentage questions, then tell me, and I'll send you a film with a whole load of percentage questions in it. And percentages, by the way, comes up on average more than once on every higher paper. So percentages has to be something that you revise. Right, let's go back to this one. If I divide by 15, then I work out what 1% of the normal price is. So if I divide by 15, I get 1.5, and then I multiply by 100 to get 100% of the normal price. So the normal price is $150. Okay? All right, but you need to be fluent at percentage changes for your exam. Okay, and percentage multipliers and that sort of thing. Okay, I'm moving on to question 9. And here it is on the screen, although with any luck, you've already got it in front of you. Okay, standard form. And we've only got this question and one more. Right. Question 9. The table shows in diameters, the diameters in kilometers of 5 planets. Okay, great. The first question has nothing to do with the table. Look, write 1.4 times 10 to the 5 is an ordinary number. Now, can you put this in your calculator and will it do it for you? 94 times 10 to the 5 equals, that's right, 1.4 times 10 to the 5 equals, yes it will, as it happens. But you best understand it, hadn't you? You know how we've got 1.4, and we're going to multiply it by 10 5 times. So the decimal point is going to move 5 places. Well, the first jump is over the 4, so there must be 4 more jumps. So 4 more zeros. So that's the answer, 140,000. Which of these planets has the smallest diameter? So we have to look at each of these and choose the smallest number. Now, if you want to, you could write all of these as ordinary numbers, I suppose. You could write every one of them as ordinary numbers. And remember, you've got 2 hours for your exam. So the truth is, you've probably got time to do that if you want to. But I can spot straight away that this one is the smallest because it's only times 10 to the power 3. So that one is 6800, and all the other ones are times 10 to the power of a highest power, are times 10 to the power of a higher power. So which of these planets has the smallest diameter? Answer, Mars. Okay, calculate the difference in kilometers between the diameter of Saturn and the diameter of Neptune. Well, the diameter of Saturn is 1.2 times 10 to the 5, and the diameter of Neptune is 5.0 times 10 to the 4. And I've got to calculate the difference, so I'm going to subtract one from the other. I'm going to do 1.2 times 10 to the 5 minus 5.0 times 10 to the 4. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, the truth of the matter is I'm going to put it in my calculator. 1.2 times 10 to the power of 5 minus 5.0 times 10 to the power of 4 equals, and on my calculator I get 70,000. Now look out, give your answer in standard form. So now I'm going to convert that into standard form. 7 times 10 to the 4. And that is question 9 done. And now we've only got one more question to go. Okay. I'm just going to look at the comments in case anybody's asked something. And with any luck, you're happy with that. And you're going to crack on with question 10, our last question. Right, can I put question 10 on the screen? Nobody's telling me to slow down. So here is the last question. Okay, shall we have a look at this? Right. Is there a formula for question 10? Let's have a look. What would you want the formula for? I mean, there are some formulas, but they're not formulas that are given to you on the formula sheet. You might find it useful to know the area of a circle. The area of a circle is pi r squared, but you will need to know that formula when it comes to your exams. Okay. The diagram shows a shape made from triangle ABC and a semicircle with diameter BC. Oh, look at this. Triangle ABC is right angled at B. Let's draw triangle ABC, shall we? A to C to B, there it is, perfect drawing, 9.5, 7.6. Okay. AB is 7.6, AC is 9.5, they're marked on the diagram. Calculate the area of the shape. Well, I suppose I could do it as the area of the triangle, couldn't I? And then separately, I could do the area of the semicircle. So let's do the area of the triangle first, shall we? How do you find the area of a triangle? Area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Let's look at this triangle, this one here. Do you know the base? Yes, you do. Do you know the height? No, you don't. Could you find the height? How can you find the height of that triangle? Well, I think you can use Pythagoras. I know you can use Pythagoras because it's a right angle triangle, so we just need to find that missing length, because the missing length there is the height, isn't it? Is this going to be an adding Pythagoras or a subtracting? Answer, it's going to be a subtracting Pythagoras. Okay. So it's going to be subtracting because we know the hypotenuse already, don't we? So it's going to be the square root of 9.5 squared minus 7.6 squared. So 9.5 squared minus 7.6 squared equals, and square root my answer. And I get 5.7. So this height is 5.7. Now, can you work out the area of the triangle now? I think you can. The area of the triangle is 7.6 times the height, 5.7, divided by 2. Right, well, I can do that with my calculator. 7.6 times 5.7 equals, divided by 2 equals, S to D, the area of that triangle is 21.66. Okay, great. So now, I've found the area of the triangle, now I need to find the area of the semicircle, right? Well, let's just draw that semicircle. Look out, another competent drawing coming up. Here it is. Here's the semicircle, all right? And I know that C to B is 5.7, isn't it? Now I need to know the area of that semicircle. How do I find the area of a semicircle? Well, the area of a circle is pi r squared. So I'm guessing I'm going to do pi r squared divided by 2 because it's a semicircle. Okay. Now, what's the radius? Is the radius 5.7? No, the radius is half of 5.7. So I've got 5.7 divided by 2. So the radius is 2.85. So the area of the semicircle is area equals pi times 2.85 squared, and then divide that by 2 because it's only a semicircle. Right, here we go. 2.85 squared times pi equals, divide by 2 equals S to D. Aha. 12.7587. All right, so now I need the area of the whole thing, don't I? So the area of the whole thing will be 21.66 plus 12.7587. I've got that number on my calculator already, so I'm just going to put plus 21.66 equals 34.4187. And what does it say? 3 significant figures. 34.4. And that is my answer for that last question, question 10. Okay. So, are you happy with that? Does anyone have a question they want to ask? Right. Well, that is the end. We were all just over an hour we were, so well done. Thanks for coming. Have a good rest of the weekend. If you want a hand or you want a link to some films, then send me a message. What on earth does cold mean? Right, anyway, send me a message, okay, if you want a hand with anything. Okay, and if you want to rewatch the film, it will be right there on the YouTube channel now. Okay, nobody wants to ask anything by the look of it, so we're going to finish there. Good luck with your mocks if you're going to sit mock soon, and let me know if I can help. Right. See you later. Thanks for coming. See you in the next one.